Hi and welcome everyone to our 42nd episode of The Little Inside. Surprisingly, my name is still Tobi, and this week it's all about the comfort zone. So make yourselves comfortable. We get started right after the intro. The comfort zone for most of us is a place of habit. A place where evolution dies or starves. A place where we are unable to develop out of. A comfort zone is something that very often feels uncomfortable, actually. For most people, the comfort zone is rather an uncomfortable place. A place of habitually doubting themselves. A place of habitually disliking themselves. A comfort zone, therefore, could be called our inner home, our inner refuge. And what we mostly do is we take refuge in what harms us rather than in what benefits us. But both could actually be considered a comfort zone. So we could habitually, continuously do things that create pleasure, and being continuously stuck in pleasurable feelings, seeking out pleasurable feelings, and feeling incredibly threatened or fearful of everything that is a bit more dark. And on the other hand, we could also habitually chase unpleasant feelings, unpleasant people to hang around with. We could go on the internet and look for problems. That's a very common one. And then dwell for hours on this problematic world, the bad politics and the wars and the misery and the hunger. Also that can be considered a comfort zone. Is something that we habitually do, something that's our inner home that we return to frequently. The outer wall of our comfort zone consists of preferences. These things that we habitually do, that we prefer. For example, we want to feel good, so we follow everything that feels good. I'm pulled by the good feelings. I want to be happy. I don't want to think about my sadness. I don't want to think about that I'm actually not doing so well inside. Rather, I want to portray myself to the outside world via social media or whatever else in my best form. That creates this kind of inner personality that is starving, completely devoid of actually authenticity. And this outer persona of living the perfect, happy life. And we constantly have these preferences of keeping that up. We would prefer the happy feelings. We prefer praise to blame. We prefer feeling good to feeling bad. We prefer other people looking at us in a certain way that feels good, and so forth. We're constantly following with our preferences what feels good, and we try to avoid what doesn't feel good. So if we follow our preferences, guess what? You will get more and more of what you got yesterday. As long as our preferences don't change, our decisions, our actions, our habits cannot change. And you can also even say that the preferences have one job only: to keep you in what you know and to shield you from the unknown, like the unknown future where things could go wrong. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about death. That's something that touches all of us, that we all share, we all have in common, but it's a huge thing to be avoided. We don't want to think about it. We don't want to visualize ourselves dying. Oh, there is a preference. There's a very strong preference right there. I prefer not to look at the facts of life, that I'm getting older, that people criticize me, that they dislike me, that people that I love eventually will be separated from me either via death or other problems that arise. So we kind of choose not to look. There's another preference again. We follow the preference of, short-term pleasures, things that feel good right now. but we do not really think about long-term pleasure and about cultivating long-term pleasure, because very often cultivating long-term pleasure involves a bit of short-term pain, and sometimes quite a lot of short-term pain actually. But then the result is long-term pleasure, something that is much better, much more reliable than the short moments of woo that we have in our life. So we could say that most of us are paralyzed by our preferences. And so learning to work against the grain of our preferences is a vital part of actually the spiritual path. As long as we're on the spiritual path and we really try to understand ourselves and go beyond suffering and try to be more happy, more fulfilled, then it is absolutely necessary to go against the grain, not so much of other people or the world outside there, but against the grain of our own preferences. Some of the old masters in our traditions, they say that if you're following preferences, you're not following truth. So preference always makes or tries to make sure that you end up in your happy place that you know, and it wants to shield you from what you don't know, what you don't understand, what is perceived as a threat, and it keeps you, in a way you can say, paralyzed. So we want to practice to get out of our comfort zone. And how to do that? Well, a good way to get out of your comfort zone is to do different things that challenge you, things that make you feel uncomfortable. Watch uncomfortable videos, for example, or meet somebody that you do not really like or that disagrees with you. If your comfort zone is that everybody has to agree with me, might be a good idea sometimes to meet people who absolutely don't agree with you at all. In my case, that might be people who hate meditation, who have, in their opinion, very good reasons why meditation is a waste of time or something. It makes me really uncomfortable. So I might go and seek out people, or I might use the opportunity when it arises to be confronted with a person that doesn't like meditation at all, for my own practice. So in short, whatever uncomfortable circumstance in your life that arises naturally or that you seek out for the purpose of practicing, to let go and to relax and to be at ease anyways, that is how you practice and train with your comfort zone, or getting out of your comfort zone. The benefit of that is it makes you stronger. It makes you more centered in yourself. Knowing that a little bit of pain doesn't mean that the world ends. A little bit of criticism doesn't mean that you are done and that's it and everyone hates me, nobody loves me. You know, this is sometimes really good to learn, actually, to be criticized, having people pointing a finger at you and saying, you know, you're not good enough or you messed up here. You know, that's not the end of the world. And I think that's something that older people very often have naturally, the ability to be just kind of like, well, yeah, it's life, it's normal, it will end. And younger people are very often like myself. I'm very often like, oh my God, that's the end of the world. Nobody loves me. Oh, this is total failure. This is epic failure. Oh my God, you know. And we stress out unnecessarily so much over things because we don't practice with things going wrong, because we want to stay in our little comfort zone, the zone that is known to us. Now, if you're one of those people and you recognize yourself as being stuck in an uncomfortable comfort zone, for example, the comfort zone of, everyone has given up on me, I'm not good enough, nobody likes me, and you keep repeating that and you keep believing in that. For you, the challenge then would be being praised by people and actually allowing it in. Allowing people to say something good about you without rejecting them, to just answer thank you or taking it in. To go against the grain of your preferences or beliefs. This is something that allows you to expand, to grow. We call that learning, and you can really only learn if you actually get out of your comfort zone. Each step that you make out of your comfort zone, that's learning. You're in the unknown. So naturally, you would have to expand. And so you can either seek that out and create it. Yoga is a great way. Stretching feels really uncomfortable. You don't want to do it, but you do it anyways, not because you prefer the feeling of yoga, but you know it's good. I don't like stretching, but I do it anyways. I stretch anyways because I know it's good for me. I don't particularly like exercising. My preference would be to hang out on the sofa behind me and to just go to sleep. That's my preference. But to get up instead and do some exercise, which would be really good for me, which is a very healthy thing to do, that's not my preference. So here's my comfort zone. It's the sofa behind me. And so the way I challenge myself would be then to do exercise anyways. Or my wife tells me that I'm not driving good enough in the car. She says, Tobi, be careful. Or she tells me things like, the traffic light is red and I can see it very clearly for myself. Then my comfort zone would be to say, but I can see the traffic light being red, and please stop criticizing me or telling me what to do. I know perfectly well how to drive. Been driving since 10 years. That's my comfort zone. Getting out of my comfort zone would be to say nothing, to let her win. So in that way, you can expand, you can grow, you can see, well, it's if you give another person, the win, let's say like me giving my wife the win and let her criticize me in the car, and then I learn in that say, I learn that, oh, well, okay, that doesn't kill me to let her win. And at the same time, I find a great strength in that. I find a great strength in my silence and in the power to actually allow my wife to be herself. I don't have to tell her what to do in return. She tells me what to do, watch out for the red traffic light. And I'm not going to try to control her by trying to change her, making her different from the way she is. Instead, there's great power in this acceptance, allowing other people to be the way they are. Or there are so many possibilities to actually practice with getting out of your own comfort zone and growing. It's great fun. Life is naturally not always something that needs to be comfortable or known. In fact, if it would be horribly boring. It would be dreadful. Like if every day would be exactly the same and you're experiencing exactly the same things, the same people, the same feelings, every day would be dreadful. So we need these kind of little challenges that life throws at us, or the bigger challenges, to grow. For some people, these big challenges that they had turned them into these very interesting people who are incredibly inspiring for everybody else, like being born without arms and legs. Right? There's this guy, Nick Vujicic, I think he's called, is born without arms and legs. He inspires thousands and thousands upon people, actually. Or Eckhart Tolle, through his awakening experience, has been preceded by a dreadful time of depression and suffering. And it is what makes these people great, the way we learn to respond to our suffering, to our problems. That's what's really counting. Trying not to have problems, this is impossible. But responding wisely to your problems, this is in our power and it's totally possible. So why not practice? The downside of not practicing actually is it keeps us in our bubble. It keeps us from evolving, from growing. It keeps us from inspiring and helping other people. Let's say if you decide to kind of surrender to your bubble of depression and you say, no, I'm done, I'm defeated. Okay, you're unfortunately right, you're done and defeated, but you could also see it in a different light if you do have the power to. You could say, for example, well, I could use my depression and overcoming my depression to help everybody who suffers from depression. And maybe that could be your motivation to move yourself out of your comfort zone, your bubble of, I am like this and I will probably never change. And I just surrender to the way I am. I mean, that's an option, but is it an option that is inspiring, that is helpful? Probably not. And I'm not saying that we never should have these moments. Well, very, very often I feel completely defeated. I feel not good at all. And then there are times in life where I have no other choice but to indulge in my negativity. That's also part of life. And in retrospect, it makes me grow, it makes me learn, it helps me to relax more fully and to be more authentic with myself and to help other people that I meet in my life. So in any ways, there's always a way to expand and to grow if you are approaching yourself with spaciousness. You allow yourself to be as you are, accepting all the aspects of yourself and go beyond the known, expanding, growing, learning every day. So I hope that this episode was good for you and that you received some meaningful input. And I'm looking forward to see all of you guys again next week. I almost forgot, if you want to write anything in the comment section below, I always invite you. If you have any questions or anything, just write them down in the comment section below. And I think that's good enough for this week. And for now, I will say bye-bye.